When you go on the Steam page or other marketplaces, you can generally see a pattern of the type of games that usually do well. It can go from simulators to card games, city builders, shooters, co-op multiplayer, but the roguelite or roguelike genre has been one that's not only seen a lot of success on the store, but also a very positive ratio of reception over the years. Some of the heaviest hitters in the indie scene as of late have been in the rogue category. Whether you look at Hades or The Binding of Isaac, Risk of Rain, Slay the Spire, Enter the Gungeon, Caves of Qud, Dwarf Fortress, and many more, you see high ratings and a lot of polish in them. It's a genre I've come to enjoy since playing The Binding of Isaac Rebirth. It was a game that got me hooked and was also the first time where I didn't get the negative feeling that comes from dying. At least not yet anyways. But in any event, roguelike games have so much going for them that you're honestly spoiled for choice, and the genre is more flexible than before, going from top-downs to platformers to finally reaching deck builders, strategy, RPG, and even FPS games in the mix. And yeah, third-person shooters as well. Both rogue genres have a ton of replayability, challenge, and polish that makes them stand out to the point where there's more good than bad in the selection. But what if there was a roguelite or roguelike game for people that came from games like Grand Theft Auto or Deus Ex? Well, you have Streets of Rogue. Streets of Rogue is another gem in the rogue sphere that feels pretty unique from a lot of the other rogue games that I've played, because it combines elements and features from 3 distinct games that it seems to take inspiration from. You have the top-down style gameplay of Nuclear Throne, a roguelike game that became another influential product in the more specific term, action roguelike, that often had challenging but fun gameplay that was easy to pick up but hard to master. Then you have the immersive sim elements of Deus Ex, another highly influential game that offered a multitude of methods to accomplishing objectives and encouraged multiple playthroughs for different outcomes and playstyles. Then finally you have the criminal parody setting of Grand Theft Auto and all of its shenanigans. All 3 games were thrown into a blender, and what came out of it has been one of the most unique and fun experiences I've had in the rogue genre. Like its other brethren, it has procedural generation that makes the playthroughs unique to each other, unlockables that encourage more runs, and of course, a lot of challenge that becomes present in the random scenarios that you're always faced with. The premise is that you're part of a resistance that wants to overthrow the mayor's regime, and by they mean you, will go out there to make a difference. The game's satirical approach results in a lot of random but funny moments that can occur in both single player and co-op sessions. You have a selection of characters that all have their advantages and disadvantages, alongside traits that will also influence your current run for better or worse. In this game, you have so much freedom to navigate the levels in any way you see fit, and that's one of the game's biggest selling points, the freedom to do whatever you want. When you go to the deeper end of roguelike games in the vein of Dwarf Fortress, Cataclysm, Dark Days Ahead, or Caves of Qud, they are titles that are not only complex but near infinitely flexible in replayability and playstyles due to the amount of role-playing potential in those games. They are incredibly daunting though for newcomers, but the best compromise that I have found that offers a more simplistic but similar amount of freedom is in Streets of Rogue due to its accessible gameplay, the freedom of complex roguelikes, and the accessibility of roguelike games that are more action-based. I haven't put a religious amount of time into this game, but when the page says that you can play for 600 hours and not get bored, I believe it because of all of the different methods and opportunities that I've yet to discover. You don't just have the sizable roster of characters, but also the means to create your own characters with traits and loadouts for more unique sessions. If you want to play as Sekiro or Big Smoke, go for it and make them. The game gives you the means to customize your own personal class, and I love that, because you have freedom in not just how you approach the levels, but how you approach your runs. You can kill, rob, steal, bribe, threaten, and even convince certain people to leave town entirely. And that's only just scratching the surface of what you're capable of doing in this game. People that loved Deus Ex will realize the potential in the game's variety of choices and playstyles, and people that liked Grand Theft Auto will appreciate the sandbox nature of the levels. Even when you traverse said levels, the AI are more or less independent and will often be doing their own thing. Certain classes will even war out with each other, like the Creps and the Bloods, inciting gang fights whenever red and blue come into contact with each other, cannibals lurking the bushes for their next meal, thieves stealing from people's backs, or just people walking about the joint. All of this is to just make the levels as immersive as possible, where it's not just about you, but also the inhabitants going about their day. And you can play as any of the people that you see on the screen too, and also have access to their own traits and big quests that they themselves have. To complete a level, you have to complete the objectives given to you, which then allows you to leave via the elevator. But you also have a big quest that's dependent on the class you're playing. Playing as a soldier has the quest of destroying all of the generators in each level, or as a cannibal, eating a certain individual in each level. Each objective for the big quest will depend on which class you choose, and you can select a big quest for your custom character or not at all as well. So you have floors, which represent each section of the city, and you have 3 levels for each of them. On the 3rd level of the floor that you're in, you will be faced with a random event that can either make the level more chaotic or easier. The random events can turn the level into a full-on war zone between cannibals and soldiers, or have random status effects every couple of seconds, or a puddle of ooze that gradually floods the entire level. It can get really chaotic, and sometimes it can get pretty frustrating depending on what you're trying to do. A lot of the times, this can also lead to unlucky situations and unfortunate deaths, making you have to start all over again. But equally, this system also adds to the fun factor that can be had in Streets of Rogue. Sometimes the paradox of choice is that when you're given freedom to do whatever you want and you have too much to do, you end up doing nothing due to being overwhelmed. But the objectives or goals in this game are relatively simple, where even if you don't make the decision to roleplay and fuck about and do things your own way, you still have goals to pursue in this game. Neutralize target, destroy generator, rescue someone, obtain item. The flexibility and freedom this game comes from the multiple ways of accomplishing those objectives, and the choices are multiplied when you add all of the other characters and their playstyles in the mix. There are so many outcomes or ideas that I've yet to explore, but it's one of those games where you're honestly better off finding out the rest for yourself. It's like if I decided to make a video about Outer Wilds and spoil everything, well then it would just ruin the experience altogether and there wouldn't be any reason to play it. Streets of Rogue is a game that's hard, fun, and near infinitely replayable because of all of the variables added to the experience, in its gameplay, its classes, its dynamic environments, and its AI behavior, not to mention the existing mutators that you can use to make the playthroughs either easier or harder or more chaotic and fun. When you level up your character, you also earn chicken nuggets, which are sort of like currency that you can use to unlock more rewards and traits for future runs, which again makes things easier and gives you a sense of progression even when you do fail a run. And that's the biggest advantage of roguelite games, where you're always getting something out of it even when a run is unsuccessful. I've yet to try the co-op mode myself, but from what I've seen, it looks to be even more chaotic and fun. Plus you can join other ongoing games in the event that you have no one to play with. But because of the differences in the class traits and playstyles, the synergy between the players can lead to funny but equally disastrous outcomes, especially if there are mutators or random events present. The game also has the inclusion of mods, but it's more in the guise of characters created by other people, as well as campaigns for new runs, or chunks to add more variety in the existing floors that you traverse. Each of the floors provide their own unique challenges, and also their own unique atmosphere and environment. The slums have gangs and thieves rampant, the industrial zone has fire everywhere, the park has cannibals in the bushes, downtown has mobsters that will come asking for money unless you have the trait that makes them friendly to you. I've yet to reach the last 2 stages, but it's only a matter of time, and I can only imagine that it'll get harder from there. Streets of Rogue is just an awesome game. It has so much going for it, and has created a bridge between people from both sides of the Rogue spectrum. It's relatively simple, but provides enough complexity in the guise of multiple choice in approaching levels, and giving you the means to do what you want in each level. And when you do manage to complete a run, something I haven't done yet by the way, you unlock more features for the character, which adds more replayability than there already is. You can spend hundreds of hours and still find more things to do, which is one of the best things about roguelite or roguelike games. Getting your money's worth 10 times over, which is what this game will most certainly do for you. It can be frustrating, fun, chaotic, and sometimes hilarious, but like any good roguelite or roguelike game, even when you die, you always come back for more. A sequel game is in the works and will be out later this year, coming with an open world setting this time around that's similar to GTA 1 and 2, and playing the first game has given me another game to be excited for this year. Definitely pick up Streets of Rogue. It's literally a crime to not play this game and call yourself a roguelite fan.